All right, let's dive deep into the world of wood and construction materials.
Feels good to me.
You ready to help our listeners prep for that wholesale merchant interview?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, think about it. Massive lumber deals, sourcing all that concrete, all the stuff that goes into building. We've got some interesting sample interview questions coming up and a whole career guide, too.
Packed with insider knowledge, all right?
Oh, yeah.
Plus, don't forget, we'll be showing you how RoleCatcher and its AI can help you tailor your answers to really stand out.
Definitely key in today's job market. What really gets me about this wholesale merchant role is it's right at the heart of the entire construction industry. You're not just out there selling wood and concrete. You're like connecting all the dots in a whole big complex supply chain.
Oh, for sure. It's a big puzzle
Yeah, you got to make sure those projects stay on track and the builders have what they need.
when they need it.
Exactly.
It's almost like being the conductor of this huge orchestra.
It really is.
But instead of instruments, you're dealing with shipments of lumber, steel, all that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well, let's jump right into our first interview question. It's a classic one. Can you walk me through your experience in wholesale merchandising in the wood and construction materials industry? Sounds simple, but I bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it sounds straightforward, but they're looking for something a bit deeper.
Yeah.
You know, they want to see your passion, how deep your knowledge goes, and how you connect your past to this role.
Okay.
You know, it's your story to tell, highlight those specific projects, maybe talk about some challenges you overcame.
The good stuff.
Exactly. Did you ever negotiate like a really tough deal or secure some rare material? Maybe you even helped a client out with a supply chain issue.
That's what they want to hear.
Yeah, now's the time to share all that.
So it's not just what you did, but how you navigated this whole world.
Yeah, and they'll be watching to see if you understand that. And speaking of showcasing, RoleCatcher's AI can really help you here. It can help you tailor your answer to match the specific job description.
That's right.
Like, let's say the company really emphasizes sustainability. RoleCatcher can help you weave in examples of how you've prioritized sustainable sourcing in your past roles.
So smart.
It shows you've really done your homework and that you're thinking strategically. Oh, and don't be surprised if they follow up with, what was your biggest takeaway from that experience?
Okay, good point.
Have a specific lesson learned ready, something that shows you can grow and adapt.
Makes sense. Okay, so question number 2. How do you stay up to date with industry trends and changes? Anyone can say they just read industry magazines,
Yeah, it's not going to cut it.
but we got to stand out here. What can we do to go beyond the obvious?
Well, you got to think beyond just magazines. What about specialized online forums? You know, the kind where professionals hang out and share what they're seeing?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And definitely mention going to industry events, like trade shows, conferences, workshops. All that shows you're actively involved and engaged, not just reading about it in your armchair.
Shows you're out there in the world, making those connections. That actually reminds me of something in our career guide. It emphasizes how important continuous learning is in this field.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe even mention some specific courses or certifications you've taken or you're planning to take.
Yeah, those are great because they show you're committed to growing professionally, which is huge in such a dynamic industry.
And, sometimes they throw in a curveball question like, what's a recent industry development that's caught your eye and why?
Yeah, they love to do that. So have something specific ready. Maybe a specific trend, new technology, or even a regulatory change.
Okay, and then?
Be sure to explain its potential impact on the business, why it caught your attention.
All right. Now for question 3. How do you manage relationships with suppliers and customers? This feels like the heart of being a wholesale merchant, building those connections.
Yeah, you're right. It's all about those long-term connections.
But what are they really looking for here?
Well, it goes beyond just being a people person. They want to know how you communicate, how you negotiate, even how you handle conflict resolution.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Do you like to do regular check-ins with your contacts? Do you use certain tools to manage all those relationships? What's your strategy for handling disagreements while still keeping those partnerships strong?
Ooh, good question. Like imagine a scenario where a big shipment of lumber gets delayed.
Oh man, I've been there.
Yeah, and it ends up delaying a major construction project.
It's stressful.
So you've got this frustrated client on one side and a supplier scrambling to fix the problem on the other.
Uh-huh.
How do you handle that situation?
Well, it's definitely a balancing act. You need to let the client know you understand their frustration, reassure them that you're handling it, and then work closely with the supplier to find a solution, try to minimize the impact of that delay.
Right.
But it's not just about putting out that fire, it's about keeping those relationships strong for the long haul.
I like that. And you know what? This is where RoleCatcher can be so helpful. Its AI can analyze the job description and tell you exactly what relationship building skills that company really values.
Really?
Yeah, so maybe they're looking for someone who's a great collaborator or strong negotiator, or maybe someone who excels at conflict resolution.
Huh?
And then you can tailor your answer to highlight those qualities.
That's so smart. Now let's move on to a question that gets a bit more into the nitty-gritty.
Okay, hit me.
Can you walk me through your approach to pricing and inventory management?
Ooh, yeah.
This is where your expertise comes in.
It's all about knowing the market, managing that inventory, and making sure you're pricing everything competitively.
Exactly. And this industry, wood and construction materials, it's always changing. Prices fluctuate, supply chains can be a mess, and you're always trying to keep up with supply and demand.
It's like you're on a roller coaster.
The interviewer wants to see that you get those nuances and that you can make smart decisions based on them. Like, for example, can you explain how things like lumber futures impact a wholesale merchant's pricing decisions? Or transportation costs, even how different species are graded?
Lumber futures. Okay, I have to admit, that's a term I'm not totally familiar with.
Yeah, so think of it like this. Lumber futures are basically contracts to buy or sell lumber at a set price on a future date.
Okay.
It's a way to hedge against those price changes,
Makes sense.
which is crucial in this industry. So let's say you're a wholesale merchant and you need a large quantity of lumber for a project coming up. By using these lumber futures, you can lock in a price today.
I see.
So you're protected if the price goes up later.
It's like insurance against the market going crazy.
Yeah,
So if they ask me this question, it's important to show I understand those market things and how they affect how we price things.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get specific. Talking about things like lumber futures, transportation, species grading, all that shows you really know your stuff.
Right. And this is another spot where RoleCatcher's AI can really give you an edge. It can actually give you insights into specific challenges and risks that are common in the industry.
Wow.
Like maybe there's been a recent surge in lumber prices, or maybe there's a shortage of a particular material.
Right.
If you weave that kind of real-world info into your answer, it shows you're not just reciting a textbook.
Yeah, it shows you're plugged in.
Yeah, you're actively following the market and thinking strategically.
Exactly. Plus, it shows you're resourceful and you know where to find the info you need to make good decisions.
Okay, so let's try another one. How do you approach risk management in this industry? We all know that construction projects can be super unpredictable.
Totally.
You've got weather delays, materials running short, prices going up and down. It seems like there's always something that can go wrong.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's exactly what they want to hear you talk about.
Yep.
They're looking for someone who not only sees those risks, but is already thinking about how to deal with them.
So be proactive.
Exactly. This is your chance to shine, show off those analytical skills, your ability to think ahead and really understand what can impact a project's success.
So it's about spotting those problems before they even happen and having a backup plan ready to go.
Right. For example, if you know a certain type of wood is in high demand, you might want to stock up on more of it in advance.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Or start looking at different materials that you could use instead.
Smart. And hey, RoleCatcher can help you out here too.
Oh, yeah? How so?
Well, it can give you specific examples of risks that pop up in this industry all the time.
Oh, that's useful.
Yeah, like maybe there's a tree disease going around that's messing with the lumber supply, or maybe there are new regulations changing how certain materials are sourced or transported.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about those things.
It's wild, right?
Yeah. There's so much involved in managing risk in this industry.
It's a whole other layer of the job. And don't be surprised if they tried to dig a little deeper with a follow-up question. Like, tell me about a time you had to make a tough decision under pressure.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. How did you weigh the risks and benefits? Have a good example ready to share. One that shows you can think critically, see the potential outcomes, and make the right call even when things are uncertain.
Good advice. I'm really starting to see how complex this wholesale merchant role is.
Me too. So much more than just buying and selling. It's about knowing the market, building relationships, managing risks, and always being ready to adapt.
You've got it. And one of the biggest keys to succeeding is having a real passion for this industry.
I could definitely see that passion coming through in our conversation today. I'm learning so much about this whole world. Okay, we've covered a ton already, but we've got even more to explore. Let's take a quick break and come back for more in part 2 of our deep dive.
Welcome back. We're diving deep into what it takes to be a wholesale merchant in wood and construction materials.
It's been fascinating so far. We've seen you need sharp business skills for all that pricing and inventory stuff. But then you also need those people skills to build relationships with suppliers and customers.
Yeah, it's a really unique mix, a dynamic role. You've got to think strategically and really have that passion for the industry.
Oh, yeah. You got to love it.
Speaking of strategic thinking, let's get into our next question. How do you prioritize competing demands on your time and resources?
That's a good one, especially since we've talked about how fast-paced this job is.
Yeah, exactly. It's a constant juggling act. Tight deadlines, priorities shifting all the time, and there's just so much information coming at you.
How do you even keep up?
Right. So they want to know, how do you handle that stress? How do you manage all that work and make those tough decisions when you're under pressure? This is your chance to show off how organized you are, Talk about how you stay focused and what your methods are for prioritizing tasks. Do you use a certain system? Do you delegate? How do you make sure everything gets done on time and meets those standards?
Being organized is key. And I think RoleCatcher can even help you structure your answer here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, AI can point out those specific time management skills that are most important for the job.
Interesting.
And don't be surprised if they follow up with a deeper question. Like, tell me about a time when you had to juggle multiple projects with crazy deadlines. How did you make sure everything was completed on time and up to par?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Have a story ready to go that shows you can multitask like a pro and still deliver those results when the pressure's on.
All right. Next up is a question that looks at a different side of things. How do you manage conflict with suppliers or customers?
Ooh, yeah.
The wholesale world can be pretty high stakes, especially when you're dealing with large quantities and everyone's working on a tight schedule.
Yeah.
Disagreements are bound to happen in any business. But in this industry, the consequences can be bigger, like a shipment arrives late, a dispute over pricing, maybe there's a quality issue. Any of those can lead to friction.
For sure.
They want to see that you can stay calm, really listen to both sides, and find solutions that work for everyone.
It's not about avoiding conflict completely, right? It's knowing how to have those tough conversations and make them productive.
Exactly. And it's about protecting those relationships.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might have to negotiate, mediate between people, maybe even get creative to come up with a solution that addresses everybody's concerns.
Wow, those negotiation skills really get put to the test. It's finding that win-win, even when emotions are running high.
You got it. And this is where practicing with RoleCatcher can be really valuable. Its AI can give you feedback on how you approach conflict resolution. It can help you refine your communication style and make your negotiation tactics even stronger.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's tackle this next question. It really highlights how fast things change in this industry. How do you stay competitive in a rapidly changing market? Wood and construction materials, things are always evolving. New products, new technologies, new regulations.
You're telling me it never stops.
How do you stay ahead of the curve?
This question is all about showing them your strategic thinking. They want to see you're willing to adapt and committed to learning new things.
Right.
It's not enough to just know the trends. You need to prove you're actively looking for information, analyzing what it all means, and then adjusting your strategies based on what you find.
So you can't just passively read trade magazines. You need to connect the dots and figure out what's coming next.
Exactly. You need to position yourself for success, even as the landscape is changing around you. And remember, this is a global industry. What's going on in lumber markets over in Canada can have a ripple effect on projects in Europe, So having that global perspective is really important. Like, for example, can you talk about the growing popularity of cross-laminated timber? It's also called CLT, and it's impacting the wholesale market in a big way.
CLT.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm drawing a blank on that one.
So CLT is basically an engineered wood product. It's becoming more and more popular in construction because it's so strong and sustainable.
Yeah.
Plus, it's versatile. It's made by gluing together layers of lumber at different angles, which creates these panels that are super strong but also lightweight.
Huh, interesting.
As a wholesale merchant, understanding the benefits of CLT and how it's used, and also how it's affecting the traditional lumber market, That's all key for staying competitive.
I can see that. Keeping up with innovations like that is crucial.
And don't forget about technology in general. The way we're buying and selling, even just managing materials, it's constantly changing.
Mm.
Think about e-commerce platforms, supply chain software, even things like 3D printing. All that stuff is changing the game.
Wow. Yeah.
Being knowledgeable about these advancements shows you're forward thinking and ready to embrace those new ways of doing business.
It's all about adapting and always learning.
Exactly.
And that reminds me of something in our career guide. It highlights how important professional development is in this field.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe you could mention specific courses or certifications you've done or ones you're planning on doing. It shows that commitment to growth.
Absolutely. And be ready for a follow-up question that really tests your industry knowledge. Something like, what's a recent innovation that you find exciting and why?
Okay.
So have a specific technology or trend ready to go and be able to explain how it might create new opportunities or even challenges for wholesale merchants.
Good advice.
Hmm.
Okay, let's get to our last question for this deep dive. How do you approach team management and leadership? We've touched on this before, but it's worth exploring a bit more.
Yeah.
Even if this particular role doesn't involve directly managing people, it's a chance to show your potential for leadership.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Leadership isn't about having a fancy title. It's about how you influence others, how you inspire them.
Okay.
It's taking initiative, setting a good example, and working together as a team to reach those goals.
So even without a formal leadership role, you can still talk about times when you've shown those leadership qualities.
For sure. Think about times when you've mentored someone, led a project, or even helped resolve a conflict within a team.
Right.
Those are all valuable examples.
And hey, RoleCatcher's AI can really come in handy here again.
How so?
Well, it can help you tailor your answer to the specific company and the role. You know, maybe they're looking for a leader who's all about collaboration and creating a positive team environment. Or maybe they need someone who's more directive and focused on getting results.
Okay.
RoleCatcher can help you figure out those key leadership qualities, and then you can frame your response in a way that'll resonate with them.
Very cool. And be prepared for a follow-up question that gets into your leadership style. Like, describe a time you had to motivate a team to achieve a tough goal. What was your approach? Have a good story ready to share. One that shows you can inspire others, delegate tasks effectively, and work through challenges as a team.
We've covered so much in this deep dive. From pricing and inventory to building relationships and conflict resolution, it's clear being a wholesale merchant is a multifaceted role.
It really is.
It takes a unique set of skills and a true love for the industry.
You got it. And remember, a successful interview isn't just about giving the right answers.
Right.
It's about showing your personality, your enthusiasm, your genuine interest in the field.
Be authentic. Let your passion shine through, and don't be afraid to show your personality. Okay, we have reached the end of part 2. Let's take a moment to let all this sink in. All right, welcome back to our final part of this deep dive. Wholesale merchants in wood and construction materials, we're wrapping things up. We've really gone through a lot, from what the job entails to some pretty challenging interview questions. Hopefully you're feeling more prepared and confident now.
Yeah, I think so. And before we finish, I just want to touch on a few key things. Remember those career stages we talked about? Starting at entry level, then moving up to junior, then senior, all the way up to manager.
Yeah.
That progression, it's not just a list, it's a potential roadmap for your career in this industry. Imagine yourself moving through those stages, getting more responsibility, maybe even leading teams.
I like that, having that long-term vision.
Yeah.
It can give your interview answers more depth. It shows you're not just after any job, you're thinking about your whole career path.
Exactly. And speaking of career paths, let's go back to those pros and cons we talked about earlier. There's a lot to love about this industry.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You've got the potential to earn a good living, you get to work with all kinds of materials, and you can build some really strong relationships with people.
Definitely motivating.
But it's important to be realistic about the challenges, too. The market is competitive, it can be stressful, and you always got to be ready to adapt.
Yeah, things change fast.
Being aware of both the good and the bad shows you're coming in with your eyes open. You're prepared.
Right. It shows you're not just chasing a paycheck.
Yeah.
You really care about this industry.
Exactly.
Okay, now before we wrap up completely, we got to talk about one more important thing for your interview. Your questions.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Remember, it's a two-way street. It's your chance to figure out if this company's the right fit for you.
Absolutely. Don't be shy about coming in with some thoughtful questions. Shows you've done your homework.
Exactly. And you're genuinely interested in their culture. You know what they value, where they're headed.
For example, you could ask them about their sustainability practices,
Okay.
or how they support their employees' professional development, or what their vision is for the industry as a whole.
All great questions.
Asking those kinds of insightful questions, it does two things. One, it gives you valuable information. But two, it shows them you're engaged, you're
Yeah.
eager to learn.
Love it.
And hey, guess what? RoleCatcher can even help you come up with those great questions. Its AI can check out the company's website, news articles, even social media.
No way.
Oh yeah, it'll help you craft questions that are really specific to their business.
It's like having your own personal research assistant. So let's sum it all up. You've got the knowledge, you've practiced your answers, and you've got your list of insightful questions.
Yeah.
What's the one thing we want you to remember as you walk into that interview?
Be confident. You've put in the work, you've honed those skills, and you're passionate about this industry. Don't be afraid to let that shine through.
I love that. Believe in yourself. Trust your preparation and go in there ready to wow them. And remember, this industry, it's literally building the world around us. What could be more impactful than that?
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
So go out there, make your mark, and build an amazing career. We're cheering you on. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's got your back every step of the way. Good luck.